Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have two terrific poets with us today, Rich Ferguson and Chanel Brenner. Chanel will read first. Chanel Brenner is the winner of the 2021 Press 53 Award for Poetry for Smile or Else. She is the author of Vanilla Milk, a memoir told in poems, Silver Birch Press 2014. Her poems and essays have appeared in The Rumpus, Tahoma, Literary Review, Her Story, Barrow Street, Literary Mama, Modern Lost, New Ohio Review, Rattle, Salamander, Spoon River, and others. Her poem, July 28, won first prize in the Right Place at the Right Times contest judged by Ellen Bass, and her poem, Apology, won first prize in the Smartish Pace Beulah Rose Poetry Prize. Here's a splendid poet, Chanel Brenner.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm so happy to be here today to share my poetry and to be reading along with Rich Ferguson, who I've had the pleasure of reading with in the past. I am going to read from both of my books. I'm going to start with Smile or Else and start with a few poems from this one. The first poem is We Never Heal, Just Remember Less. Stretching my legs after a walk down our old street, my dead son's face came to me. The scar below his left eyebrow, the window of his missing two front teeth. So clear, I had to sit for a minute on someone else's porch. 4 years since Riley died, since the tsunami hit Japan. All those children swept away. You'd think we'd heal. Yet today, at our younger son's game, as Desmond raced toward home, his father cheered, "Go, Riley." We stared at one another, seeing our first son fall all over again. Skull of memory cracked open against concrete. And this next poem I'm going to read is called It's actually a poem about his younger brother, Desmond. And it's called Facebook Post, Mother-Son Hike at Solstice Canyon, 183 likes. Look at our wide smiles, muscular legs, blonde hair blowing in wind, not my clenched jaw, tight neck muscles. See grassy hills, yellow wildflowers, shades of blue. Not me dragging him away from the Xbox. Admire the ocean merging with sky, not the fight in the car. The sun kissed earth, not his complaints about being cold when he wouldn't wear a jacket. Our faces radiant with dew, not his car sickness. See the trail summit, not my fear of him falling off the cliff. Like our heads tilted towards each other, not someone shouting, "Smile or else." The next poem I'm going to read is from Smile or Else also, and it's, I'm just getting to the page. Okay, it's called Raising Grief, and it's kind of about how grief takes on a separate entity. Raising Grief. Morning was born, colicky, wet-eyed, trying to console her, sleep-deprived. I pushed her in a stroller, tried every octave. Those first years, bled nights, falling asleep with her in my arms, breathing in unison. protecting the fontanel on her fragile head. Now I know to feed her sweet bread and help herself soothe when she seethes. Before she runs off to climb a tree, she nuzzles me on a park bench, swinging her legs like a 4-year-old. Okay. From this. All right, and the next poem. At a restaurant the night my son died. I sat across Riley, shooting his portrait with my phone. His charcoal sweatshirt faded into the dark booth. He played tic-tac-toe in the dim light. I should have known something was wrong when he scribbled his X's and O's like a toddler. Should have known his brain's weak vessels, his arteriovenous malformations were bleeding again. Should have put down the phone and looked him in the eye. Should have noticed his half-eaten ice cream melting in the bowl. And the next poems I'm going to read are from Vanilla Milk. And the first poem I'm going to read is, when Desmond's always loved football. And when he's actually going to start high school this year and also start tackle football. And I wrote this poem before I knew about his passion for football. It's called The Perfect Kiss. I walk through my house, picking up fragments of our lives, an arm here, an ear there. Desmond charges me like a football player, slowing before impact to a hummingbird's hover, pressing gentle lips on my kneecap, his 2 small hands holding my leg in place. My focus shifts, transcending the day's worry and minutia. And I'm reminded by my 2-year-old of love, stripped of the body I think I need, to the essence of who I am. I aspire to kiss so freely. And a lot of my poems are pretty short, so I feel like there's a lot of them, and just to let you know. So I'm going to try to keep track of time. This next poem is called The Unlearning. My son built a rocket today from blocks, chairs, and toy fruit. He showed a classmate how to flip the power switch, invisible to me, to prepare for takeoff. I watched from my world, bound by facts and limitations I'd been taught, unable to see beyond the room enclosing me, while he blasted off and soared through space, open to infinite possibilities. It will take him years to unlearn. I have 2 times the love for one child. Since the death of my older son, I worry that the weight of my love is too heavy. I see my son hunched over, carrying my grief like a load of stones. I worry he'll learn to bask in that love until he sunburns, come to crave the sting and heat of it. I worry that he is forming like a rock in a riverbed, my grief-ridden love rushing over him like white water. I worry that one day a woman will ask him why her love is not enough, and he won't know the answer. Okay, now I'm moving back to Smile or Else. And I got asked a lot after Riley died how I could even put makeup on, and I ended up writing this poem. When they call to tell you your son is dying, go to your vanity and greet your ghost. Smooth foundation onto your ashen face. Dot concealer on dark under eye circles. You must dust your face with rice powder. Mark your cheekbones with blood root. Gloss your lashes with mascara. Separate them with a brush. Paint your lips with Afghan red. Draw fierce blue lines around your eyes. If anyone asks why you're doing this, say it's the last time you will look this alive. This one's kind of a change of pace. It's about Desmond and video games. And it's called Mother Trucker. Desmond keeps screeching at his video game on the way to football practice. Mother Trucker. What's the big deal, he asks. I'm not saying fucker. Riley never spoke that word. They're just words, I used to tell my mother when she yelled, I should wash your mouth out with soap. I'm mother trucking down a real highway to hell, bumper to bumper, horns blaring. Damn it, he headshotted me, Desmond yells at his Fortnite hell. As bicycles whir by my birdshot window and afternoon traffic and motherhood headshot me. I swerve a lane, wishing for an app like Waze to help navigate my journey. Should I turn left on lenient lane or make a sharp right on rigid road? I got 3 kills. I scowl in my rearview mirror, as he tries to head off judgment. Don't worry, there's no blood. And I wonder if I missed a shortcut. Just one more round. I'll go to Tilted Towers and die. Should I veer left or make a U-turn at Unplug Way? Mother Trucker, when traffic stops and I slam on the brakes. Mom, you made me die. His words whiplash like a rear-ending bus. I'm trucking him up. In Fortnite, he reassures, not real life. Some other mother in a Porsche Cayenne breezes by and cuts me off. Mother Trucker, I yell. Mom, really? She looks nice. She probably doesn't allow her kids to play video games, I say. As if I could bypass the hazards or navigate away from the same dead end where it's not the trucking mother's fault. How am I doing on time here?
You have about 13 more minutes.
Okay. This next poem is also from Smile or Else. And this is about Riley's favorite holiday. El Dia de los Muertos is the title. El Dia de los Muertos was Riley's favorite holiday. He loved smelling the sugar skulls, didn't mind that he couldn't eat them. My husband asks, who wants a dead kid's bike? Then places Riley's in the alley for someone to take. Some believe the dead are insulted by sorrow. My husband rummages through boxes in our garage like we are having a fire sale. He finds my dead father's rare coins in a sock, a card from my dead grandmother. In Riley's closet, I absorb the silent, airless church of his clothes and realize sugar skulls have a space on the forehead for a name. My husband runs outside to retrieve Riley's bike. Okay. I'm going to read, the next poem is the title poem of Vanilla Milk. So it's where the title originates from. Today, when I walked by the lab where you had your blood tested all those times, I saw our ghosts sitting side by side, looking at the book about dinosaurs. You chewed your Spider-Man shirt collar, and I read aloud about the Barosaurus and Triceratops. You stopped me at the pliosaur, who could swallow a person whole. What's extinct mean, you asked. It wasn't the best book for a child who had almost died. I got one thing right that day. I remembered to bring your vanilla milk in a box. When the nurse came in, I handed it to you. Told you to wait until I said when. You never noticed the needle go in. You sucked steadily through the straw, your brown eyes glued to the picture of the pliosaur in the open book. And when I said it was time to go, you asked in your sweet, soft voice, "Already, Mommy?" Okay, looking for the next one. And this one's titled, Riley Died Again Yesterday. We ordered food from a place we used to get delivery before. The doorbell rings and there she is, glowing and smiling like always. How are your two boys? Desmond stands close, so like his brother, you could mistake him if you squinted. My hand on his head, I tell her Riley died. She goes dark as a sudden cloud, hand over her mouth as she sobs. She says, "I'm sorry too many times to stand." I hug her and say, "It's okay. He was a beautiful boy and we miss him." My arm wet with her tears. She said she was excited to see our order, to enjoy his running hug and Spider-Man stories. She says, "My cancer came back and almost got me." I pictured the last time they saw each other, death's finger pointing, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, so I get asked a lot recently how I'm going to let Desmond play tackle football. And this is kind of a response poem to that question. It's called When Desmond Asks, Am I Born to Play Football? It's violent and brutish, I want to say. Grown men crashing into each other like souped up monster trucks. As spectators roar like Romans at the Colosseum, torn hamstrings, dislocated shoulders, ruptured discs, cracked skulls, blood leaking like gasoline. I want to say he can never play it, ever. But when he faithfully practices his pigskin spin in the yard, I see the way his face lights up like Lambeau Field on opening night. Okay, I think, do I have time for a couple more poems or?
Yes.
Okay. This one is called Back at the El Encanto, one of my favorite hotels. The hotel has aged backwards, cracks filled in, chipped paint, smoothed, sagging walls lifted. I almost remember the younger us, bouncing like a diamond's iridescent reflected light, running through rain, our tongues sweet with champagne. Out of focus snapshots with too much light or not enough. At dinner, I see that couple on a love seat sharing creme brulee, spooning without looking. Look at us now, our image diminished like a reflection in a rear view mirror. The only difference between then and now is time. And our son's death, a semi-truck we didn't see coming to broadside us. I think I'm going to read a new poem, which I started volunteering for Right Girl, and I've been a mentor for a teen. And so I write in those sessions. And this is a newer poem that I wrote called Let's Keep the Cat. And it's about a stray cat that we've now adopted. Okay, let's keep the cat because he wandered into our dark hearts and backyard the day Jupiter aligned with the sun, radiating his luck upon us, because his moonstone eyes promise new beginnings, and his fur coat is a melange of banana bread and Neapolitan ice cream that satiates our sweet tooth. Let's keep the cat because of mountain peaks, expansive green fields, and footballs soaring through air, because he roams our yard like a lion and makes us want to dance on our tails like dolphins in ocean spray. Let's keep the cat because of gravel that spits a pebble into a shoe to bother a foot, because of pools bereft of water, but filled with sand and broken shells that jab like judgment. Let's rainbow him with love and shower him with wisteria and sea bream. Let's wave 100 flags for him, hire a pilot to skywrite his name, tell the world he is ours. But first, let's name her.
Thank you, Chanel, for such a loving, precise, poignant reading. It's elegiac. You know, you're facing death and loss and grief, and you just do it so splendidly. You know, I read once that you're writing about grief and you get it into the music and the rhythm of the melody of the poem, and that helps. Obviously, it's a craft. And then the other thing, you know, I was reading a short story of Chekhov recently, and a 16-year-old girl goes to see a play, and she comes out and she talks about how the effort to accept, in this case, death and go on is what our lives are about. I mean, I'm older than you are, and I see a lot of that. Obviously, you know, I lost my wife, and you do it so supremely. So thank you for candor. I mean, to me, I think that's what's at the base of poetry, at least the way I look at it. But thank you for that. When did you write your first poem?
I wrote my first poem. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly when I wrote my first poem, but I wrote the fifth poem I ever wrote was the night he died. So I heard a voice in my head that said, go write. And so I started. Yeah.
Well, you go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. It means a lot.
Well, you know, there was a poet critic in LA. He was a professor at Irvine, and a similar thing happened to him. He was a Victorian scholar, Robert Peters, and then his son died about age 5 or 6, and he wrote a book called Songs for a Son, and that just kicked off his life in poetry. And Paul Goodman, you know, he wrote a book about the loss of his son too. So thank you for writing about that. I mean, it's you know, life and death, right? That's one of the main themes of poetry. What attracts you to the poetry form?
It's a good question. I feel like I connect in that way with Riley and with other people that have lost, it's more taps into something differently than writing prose. I guess it would be the creative aspect too, like the choosing the right words and the line breaks and there's more it's more like a piece of art that you're creating. Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
In Redondo Beach, California.
You're a real Southern California woman.
Yeah.
Well, who are a couple of the poets in your past, in the past before you began writing poetry seriously that influenced you?
A couple that come to mind are Shelley Wagner, who she wrote a book called The Andrew Poems about the death of her son. And that one I really connected with when I was after Riley died. And then Ellen Bass is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Well, you keep your son alive and you connect with him and you let us know about him, a blessing. So thank you very much for your wonderful reading, Chanel. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much. I'm excited to hear Rich read.
Our next poet is Rich Ferguson. LA poet, spoken word performer Rich Ferguson is the lead editor of the anthology Beat Not Beat, Moontide Press, currently touring California. Rich brings 3 decades of performing on stage and 20 years of creating spoken word videos. Most recently, he has been creating works with LA and international filmmakers, poets, musicians, and was chosen for a 2022 bursary as artist in residence at the Valparaiso Foundation in Spain. Author of the poetry collections, Everything is Radiant, Between the Hates, Moontide Press, 8 and Agony, Punk Hostage Press, and the novel New Jersey Me, Rare Bird Books. Rich has shared the stage with Patti Smith, Wanda Coleman, Moby, and other esteemed poets and musicians. Here's a wonderful poet, Rich Ferguson.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry. It's an honor to be here with you, and Chanel, thank you so much. And I'm just going to jump right into it. This is called What Was Said at the Reunion of Deathbed Wishes. I want to seek out tomorrows that drink optimism, straight no chaser. I want to dress our deepest sorrows and easy to shed miseries, remove all billboards from the overcrowded highways of our minds. I want to prove that white noise loves black jazz, that Mr. Rogers was a CIA operative hired to test the limits of human kindness. At the reason dogs howl is because it's far easier than reciting Ginsberg's Howl by memory. I want to create drive-through therapy for when we just need a to-go cup of healing, build monuments to love letters still written by hand, offer landmark status to all remaining phone booths, build bookstores on Mars, underground libraries for bookworms, create bright playgrounds in the cloudy eyes of the dying. I want to expose all false idols for being truly idle, recycle old lies into lions guarding the gates of greatness, televise the next revolution without any commercials, create a medication to remove all self-inflicted blemishes from our conscience, drop poetry bombs into lives without enlightenment, compose songs of tectonic forgiveness along all our faults. I want to swap eyes with a stranger to see how others witness life. This is called a gene for tears. Even if you watch this country with the sound turned down, all the hate and hurt still bruise through. Derangements and estrangements arranged in odd and familiar ways, intoxicated logic, unmended melodies with not enough pills or winning streaks to reach the finish line. Even with the sound turned down, you can still hear a cry take hold in the throat and refuse to leave. You recognize how a broken body learns its way around a 12-bar blues when jagged howls of fist verbs shatter the air. Even with the sound turned down, a down sound, you still hear how some are beats so bad their spilled blood becomes jazz, a music to hymn a broken body to heaven. Everything is radiant between the hates. Days booby-trapped with animosity, reeking of gunpowder's acrid bite, when the bass heavy beat of police brutality makes it so you can't breathe, and kids begin the new school year with bulletproof backpacks, when homegrown terrorists keep getting younger and hate speech grows louder, when those who perish from shootings, beatings, suicide, and disease are reduced to body bag hashtags on social media, so heavy these days when chaos holds sway and pallbearers bear the weight of still another coffin across the worn, cobbled streets of our eyes. In between it all, moments of grace, a kind word, a shared kiss, offering a child tender stick phrases such as please and thank you to illuminate their journey forward. Here, contentment is revealed. Everything is radiant between the hates. The gym beyond good and evil tendencies. Lately, my brain has been working out at the gym beyond good and evil tendencies. Nietzsche is my spotter. He tells me to bench press the weight of the world, says eternity is now. So stop worrying whether or not I'll lose 5 pounds by tomorrow. Or how when boxing demons don't become your own bruised monster. Nietzsche tells me when the punching bag is still, that's when the fighting man attacks himself. Says if I don't know how to chill out, then I should not linger in the heated sauna of argument. Or how quickly one sheds pounds of arrogance when standing amongst those deserving people not admiring themselves in the mirror. Says a thought or possibility can shatter oneself more quickly than a hard-ass Pilates class. Or how ultimately one more loves one's desire for tight abs than the tight abs that are desired. When he's done with me, Nietzsche wipes away my sweat with his bushy mustache, tells me no absolute truths are waiting for me at the juice bar. What I confessed to Ophelia on our first and only date. My heart is a lava lamp. My heart is an electric chair. My heart has hidden agendas that even I can't decipher. My heart is seventh heaven. My heart refuses to dine on canned laughter. My heart carves itself into a pill, then consumes itself. My heart has bruised knees from continually genuflecting in the chapel of longed for happily ever afters. My heart drunk dials the moon when I'm sleeping. My heart has been mistaken for a crystal ball. It has been mistaken for a freshly dug grave. My heart is a horizon of bright hellos. My heart turns shadow whenever having to say goodbye. My heart is a muscle that is way too insecure to pump iron at Venice Beach. It loves to beat. It loves to get down. My heart has this thing about playing air drums to James Brown. And Harry, I wanted to do these next couple poems as an homage to you, given your illustrious film career. The first poem was inspired by a specific film, and the second is inspired by thinking about LA in a filmic way. And this is A Rock of Ages, and it's in celebration of a documentary, Rock and Roll Made in Mexico. In the beginning, cosmic vibrations, atoms joining atoms, creating stars, universes, acoustic waves of planets spinning, galaxies coalescing, crashing, ultrasounds and infrasounds of the Big Bang resounding across time and space. Blank pages of age-old silences rewritten across Earth's new formation, river movements forming flowing meditation, dinosaur roar, trees, green laugh. First human hand striking stone against stone, sparking fire, fury, war cry. Prehistoric music, Native and American, Aboriginal music reverberating through the ages, shamanic sounds oscillating with onomatopoeia, buzz, boom, growl. Ancient tones scribed into song, cuneiforms composed in harmonies of thirds, 3 bones in the human ear, 3 stars in Orion's belt, of the people, by the people, for the people. Folk music, Greek music, Muslim music, songs of deliverance, songs of heritage and remembrance, intonation, training prophets and everyday people to vocalize, mosaics of chorus and cadence, oral artworks painted on air. Enduring compositions outlasting the fall of the Roman Empire, medieval and Middle Ages, imprisoned and transformed into enlightenment, a renaissance of polyphony and euphony, tongues constructing temple time signatures, reviled and revered through Baroque, classical, and Romantic periods. Right into a 20th century revolution where new technologies captured and enraptured new experimentations and musical styles and mediums, whole notes, half notes, eighth and 16th notes, all musical notes leaning into one another, creating songs written and rewritten with diverse lyrics and beats, yet still sharing the same electricity beneath the skin. The place where rupture becomes rapture and muscle memory mimics memorable melodies in a sweet choral repetition, a listening deep into the body, into the soul of rock and roll. Buzz, boom, growl. 1950s American movies bringing soundtracks south of the border, raucous reverberations of Bill Haley and Elvis Presley celebrated over Mexican radio. Those sonic vibrations transformed into rarefied and reinvigorated transmissions. Cesar Costa singing Spanish versions of American hits, Gloria Rios dancing boogie steps with rock beats, and Cafe Contantes and Tardeadas, Los Hooligans, Los Spark, Los Loco de Ritmo, Lalo Toral, Johnny Ortega, Irma Estrada, El Pistón cracking open the canned heat, El Brujo flashing technicolor ambience of rhythm and blues. These were not rebels without a cause when their greater cause was to rock and roll. Buzz, boom, growl. Loudspeaker prophets and reverbs, proverbs, wailing social and political messages heard by 60s youth in funky holes, abandoned cinemas and parking lots outside city limits, street demonstrations railing against oppression, songs of protest, songs of healing breath. Man and woman made melodies of Morse code of hope and how pulsing on air, harmonic crescendos building bridges over oblivion's bottomless pit, shackles becoming the crackle of riot's guitar amp cranked well beyond 10. Buzz, boom, growl. Mexican rock growing out its government cut hair, former revolutions offering new revelations, breaking free from the underground. Caifanes, La Castañeda, Cafe Tacuba, Phobia, songs singing seasons of new invention. The weather is varied as good day sunshine to heavy metal thunder. Yeah, bombs and brutality can't beat down this beat for too long because rock is always going to do what it does best. Yeah, rise, baby, rise. Electrified or unplugged, rock transforms the I into we, solitudes into multitudes, our ears cleansed with sound waves of holy water wattage rolling through the ages, a rock of ages, a rock of solid rock and roll. This is a soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir. Sounds of Hollywood lamb, thrills and chills set in ultra moody hues of 1940s, 50s gangster LA. Brass knuckle fast talk of hard-boiled thugs and detectives, kiss me deadly melodies of femme fatales, bar brawls, catcalls. The cold click of stiletto heels, stiletto blades, and more cooler doors closing on still another John Doe. Those sounds mixed with present-day sounds, brightest rhythms forged by hands of Lemert Park djembe demigods, break beating on wings of rap and revolution, car horns, car radios, car alarms. Freeways clogged with huddled and befuddled masses inching towards invention, reinvention, prosperity, invisibility. The bark and bite of bulldogs and bulldog revolvers, our past and present city sounds combining and recombining to create the soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir, a white heat double indemnity song of live and die set deep in the blood pulsing through the hearts and minds of one and all. Century city lawyers to San Pedro dock workers, West Side yoga warriors to Skid Row warriors, drug addicts to the clean and sober, clergy members to tattooed rock gods, those on their deathbeds and those suffering from fevered dreams of almighty stardom. Our soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir packs the hot and howling will of Santa Ana winds, earworms its way into our soul jukeboxes with our inner demon, seeks alleyways as if they're confessionals in which to share sins, its mirrors and reflections, rain and complex plot lines, fingernails dragging across our blackboard jungle brains as that voice in our head proclaims, yeah, I've been beaten up, but I'm not beaten, and I'm not quitting. Our soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir stained with a history of its notorious crimes and criminals. Black Dahlia, Sharon Tate, Hillside Strangler to the Grim Sleeper. It's a hymn filled with hums of late night neon signs and the short vowel sound of death's last sign, a victim's lips. Ohms and bad omens, sirens and babies crying, police helicopters circling, buzzing like hornets out for a sudden sting. One must develop an ear for our city song, harmonize slow and steady at first, then cruise into the fast lane, dodge multi-car pileups of those who burned out before, burning bright, anxious leaps of faith that only a precious few have survived. Our soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir, a lurid and lethal hunger fueled by gasoline, sweat, and tears decked out in false eyelashes and false promises. It's a true love and true crime booty call, wooing with stroked and stoked hallelujahs, purring like sex kittens, knitting kisses out of thin air, moving, grooving, coaxing, cajoling, ready to find us innocent or guilty beneath midnight street lights shining like halos and interrogation lights. Our soundtrack to a modern day LA poem noir. It's a death song in the key of cordite heard by Sam Cooke when taking a bullet at the Hacienda Hotel. It's a nonstop party song wailed by Tom Waits, Iggy Pop, and Janis Joplin at the Tropicana in the low-rent, high-spirited late 60s. Songbirds sit on phone lines mimicking our city's Reverend Dread soundtrack. Earthquakes only visit us because they want to learn how to shake, rattle, and roll like we do. From Olvera Street to Rodeo Drive, Watts Tower to the Miracle Mile, generations of races and ethnicities, occupations and preoccupations adding to our city's song. From labor movements battling 1920s union busters to 50s and 60s Chavez Ravine families facing down bulldozers and eviction notices, from African Americans chased out of 1930s sundown towns to the later cries of Rodney King when suffering the blows and bruises of racism wielding police, from the Technicolor visions of Timothy Leary to the Technicolor machinations of Raymond Chandler. Our city's song, it can be so serious and surreal. Drum loops of dull footsteps pacing confines of 6x8 cells at Men's Central Jail, mixed with the disembodied voice of Joe Gillis narrating the story of Sunset Boulevard while floating dead in a swimming pool. Other days, our city's song is a raucous hip-hop crumping and locking down Hollywood Boulevard, a funky freestyle red carpet gala popping with paparazzi and Klieg light bonfires, illuminating our highest selves. Let us shine, let us shine, let us shine. Our gangstified and glorified city sounds, revving their engines, burning rubber on asphalt, breaking all natural and supernatural speed limits. Drag racing down the 10 freeway, 5, 405, 101, and 60 to all points, north, south, east and west, from Koreatown to Croatian Place, Little Moscow to Little Ethiopia, Lake Balboa to Larchmont, Echo Park to the Palisades. Every shade in LA's urban crayon box, creating the mood, mystery, shadows, and light, harboring the living and dead. everything existing between celluloid and the flesh, all the devils and angels that are our dance partners in this manic and mystical, sadistic, and symphonic soundtrack to our modern day LA Palm Noir. And this one's dedicated to Holly Prado, greatly loved and revered LA poet whose work continues to inspire me along with so many others. This is called One. Be one with the world, one with yourself, one with the tranquility gallery behind your eyes, its humble paintings of peace and prosperity, one with how that gallery is so often under reconstruction, deconstruction, one with how everything is so impermanent, so fleeting, how your every thought breeds Frankensteins and angels. Be one with all your Frankensteins and angels. Be one with being wide awake with everyday magic, the abracadabra of glorious allegory written into your every step. Be one with the forward and backward of all your human steps, how in every positive action, seeds of limitation find their way to fruition. Be one with the bitter fruit of not always getting what you want. May that bitterness help your successes taste all the sweeter. Be one with money, clean money, blood money, funny money. One with the hard work you offer as daily sacrifice to the 9-to-5 grind. One with all the con artists, sham shamans, and common thugs, all those constantly wanting to take a bite out of your wallet, your pocketbook, your higher consciousness in life. Be one with these terrorist times. How glittering guns of the new silver spoon given to newborns, how bombs can be so readily made from common household products strapped to the waists of suicide junkies, packed into vehicles driven to your doorstep. Be one with the song of napalm encoded into your DNA, the inherent and self-annihilating dirge of burn, baby, burn. Be one with global warming and climate change, one with severe weather patterns, hurricanes, blinding heat, polar ice caps melting into water, so much water. Be one with water. Flood waters, baptismal waters, life-giving, life-taking waters. Be one with how something so clean and pure as water can be both womb and tomb. Be one with being somebody, nobody, one with how you can write your name 10,000 times across the chalkboard sky, yet still never claim the heavens as your own. Better to see your lover's face when you stare deeply into the cosmic mirror. Be one with society's crazy diamonds, the lost souls, lunatics, restless romantics, and the like. One with how we all yearn to shine so bright, how we thread flesh and blood through durable needles, sewing ourselves into the fabric of life, staying close to the lines of reality, but often straying to dream. Be one with the tick-tock ticking of the clock, the hands of time that hold you for only a moment, then move on. Be one with how no moment in time shall ever be repeated the same way twice. One with how you are a different person from one moment to the next. You slough dead skin cells, dead hair, fingernails and toenails growing, thoughts changing, the molecular structures that create you, both living and dying at the same time. Be one with how your body and being will eventually fail you. One with the day when you'll become a stranger to everyone and yourself. Be one with death, death of family, friends, loved ones, pet death, great big, overwhelming universe death. Be one with the final, everlasting, great big bang of it all. Be one with the grass on your future grave. May it be filled with 1,000,000 volts of goodness and green. May it offer a home to insects and other wildlife. May it welcome and bear the weight of those who pass over you. May the grass on your future grave be drunk on sunspeak and rise and shine. May it witness the world with eyes of all-seeing bright. May it pray to the saint of rain. Be one with the world, one with yourself. One with the rich man with slums running through his veins. One with the beggar possessing a cathedral heart. Be one with your Frankensteins and angels, the boozers and beauties, deities and needy, lost souls, restless romantics, Republicans, Democrats, sham shamans, bombs, hurricanes, and pain. Be one with the tick-tock ticking of the great big bang of it all clock. Send them all loving and luminous messages through the dark and dead of night. typed on the telegraph keys of your heart. And with your permission, Harry, I would like to close out, since I had mentioned Holly Prado earlier, I would like to close out my session with her poem in the Beat Not Beat anthology. And this is Holly Prado, and this is for Poets in Autumn. Roses become their concentrated shells, carrier of seeds. Lorca, Neruda, Akhmatova, the dead we see, the dead who see us. In this country where nothing ends, the birthmark on all our mouths, the slow mirror, a bond. Why we go on except for such a family. Holly Prado.
Thank you,
Harry.
Thank you, Rich, for such a vibrant, musical, melodic, harmonious, exalting reading. You just, sound and sight, how you put it all together. And as I use the word vibrancy, and it just really is captivating. So thank you very much for all that. And I appreciate you ending with the poem from Holly. And you did a marvelous job editing Beat Not Beat. It's just a fabulous anthology. I want to also thank you for including me in that anthology. How do you, let's take that poem of yours about the soundtrack. How do you put it all together? You see so much. You have the sounds, you have the visual, you have what's going on inside of you. There's a prophecy involved in a way. And how do you put it all together? Do you just write, or do you refine it? Or just tell me your way of processing how you work as a poet.
Yeah, well, with a poem like that, it's definitely thinking about Los Angeles and kind of meditating on it. And also with that particular piece, thinking about noir and kind of putting all that into a stew and then writing down different ideas. But then once I had all these sort of different ideas, it then becomes a process of like, how do I put all these pieces together? And I think that's where, I don't know, at least part of it, my time as a musician and things kind of help me out, because and also, writing a novel, which I'm not quite sure I'll ever write one again. You were talking to Chanel earlier about poetry and stuff. I've written a novel just to say, got that done. But my true love is poetry, and a lot of that has to do with being a musician. So I kind of lay things out and then go through it, speaking a lot of it out loud. And this is kind of how I do it for a lot of my work. And just like, I do a lot of editing by ear. So it's like, yeah, that sounds really good. The flow sounds great. Sometimes something will just sound clunky, or this image shouldn't follow that one. This one should come first. And so it really is a process of refining. And a lot of that is, thankful to my rhythm, and because drums are my first instrument. So that really helps out.
You have a great ear. When did you write your first poem, Rich?
Probably when I was like in, elementary school for sure, third or fourth grade. It's been a lifetime of loving poetry, but I didn't really. Well, here's something really quick. I was at Rutgers University in my last semester. I took a fiction writing class, and the very last week of class, the teacher was like, okay, we'll do one last week of poetry before we, close out the semester. And in the poetry, the ghetto week of poetry, I flourished. And she came up to me at the very end of class and kind of gave me this backhanded compliment saying, you're a much better poet than you are a fiction writer. And I was like, okay. And then, I packed my car, packed my drums, moved to California, wound up in San Francisco. And that's where I really started getting serious with poetry.
Who are some of the poets in the past that influenced you as a poet?
I think in high school, just because I was really into Saturday Night Live and stuff, Jim Carroll and Patti Smith, when I saw Patti Smith on Saturday Night Live, when she performed the first time, that just completely blew my mind. And by extension, Jim Carroll. So I kind of started getting into kind of some of the New York punkish poets. And then when I moved to California, started getting into a lot of the beats, Kerouac, Corso, Diane DePrima, and so on and so on. And, then it's just gone on like that. One poet, contemporary poet, but someone I just keep coming back to again and again, Terrence Hayes, who I'm rereading. Yeah, so many poets, so little time.
Well, you're fabulous, Rich, and so are you, Chanel. This has really been a wondrous poetry reading, two different types of poets, but they all have to do with, staying alive and dealing with whatever it is we have to deal with the outer society or within ourselves and loss and how to make this a better world. And you both have just really lifted up my life. And so I'm grateful to you for that. We're out of time, but I just wanted to take a minute to thank you both once again, Rich Ferguson and Chanel Brenner. And I want to make an announcement about our poetry reading next Tuesday. 3 wonderful actresses who live at MPTF, Corinne Conley, Helen Richmond, and Kay Wiseman will read from the complete poems of Amy Clampett. Amy Clampett lived most of her life in obscurity, and then when she was 63 years old, she had her first book published, The Kingfisher, and then she had 11 years of fame, winning a MacArthur Genius Grant, among others. But she's a fabulous poet too. So thank you once again, Rich Ferguson and Chanel Brenner. And here's
thank you,
Jennifer Clymer.
And thank you, Chanel.
Thank you.
You guys, that was an amazing hour. I felt energized. I felt heartbreak. To go from our meditation to this lovely, lively opportunity to crawl into every nook and cranny of feeling. It has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.